In with some breaking news on the broadcast at the top of 4 as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is addressing the 20th G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. He's called for rethinking of global development parameters at that meet, and he's also proposed creation of global traditional knowledge repository and G20 Africa skills multiplier at the G20 summit. So very important aspects that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has touched upon. To throw more light on this, we have our colleague Siddhant Mishra now joining us. Siddhant?
Yes, that's right, Greha. In fact, a short while back, Prime Minister Modi concluded his intervention at the opening session of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. In fact, we're getting to know that key initiatives have been proposed by Prime Minister Modi at the opening session. The first 3 path-breaking new initiatives. The first one is Global Traditional Knowledge Repository, as you rightly said. In fact, India's Indian Knowledge System initiative can form the base for this platform. The second, Greha, is G20 Africa Skills Multiplier Initiative, is stressing that Africa's development is in the global interest. PM Modi proposed the G20 Africa Skills Multiplier. The initiative will adopt a train the trainers model across sectors, supported and financed by all the G20 partners. The collective target is to create 1 million certified trainer in Africa over the next decade, who will then help skill millions of young people. And the third and the most interesting one, Greha, is drug terror nexus. Now, calling attention to the rapid spread of lethal synthetic drugs such as fentanyl, the Prime Minister warned of their grave impact on public health, social stability and global security. In fact, he proposed a dedicated G20 initiative on countering the drug terror nexus aimed at unifying financial governance and security tools. And now the third initiative is very, very interesting because the lethal synthetic fentanyl drug is perhaps a concern, not just for India, but for United States. In fact, United States administration has been doing crackdown on many of those vessels, ships carrying fentanyl to the American continent. In fact, US has raised this issue with China many times during their bilateral meetings. So this issue has also been raised by Prime Minister Modi during his intervention at the opening session. Greha.
Well, absolutely. What else is expected, Siddhant, ahead of his address at the G20 summit today? It's day. We have seen the kind of developments that happened with the bilateral, with not just the Australian, Prime Minister there, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What else has been planned, particularly for the Indian Prime Minister?
Well, after the opening session, Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with the world leaders. We could also expect a few pull-aside meetings with the world leaders. Then there is going to be another session at the venue today itself, followed by a banquet which will be hosted by South African leadership in the honor of the world leaders. And then the third and the last session will be taking place tomorrow, where the final draft will be issued by the South African presidency, and after which there will be the transfer of presidency to the United States, and there where the G20 African G20 South African G20 summit will conclude.
Well, absolutely. And there were certain statements that have been deemed rather controversial that were also made ahead of the G20 summit, particularly by the South African president, where he's gone on to attack the US President Donald Trump over him boycotting this entire summit. And that is the talk of the town. And that's why there is no joint communique like you have been reporting that is going to be coming out. But America has made some serious allegations against South Africa that they're going after the white population in South Africa. And so far, not backing it up with enough evidence.
Well, that's right. In fact, from the very beginning, if you see, Greha, and if you observe the way Trump administration has been adopting a complete different policy for the African continent, there has been a 360-degree change in American policy for the African continent. It got started with the South African president visiting President Trump in Oval Office. At that point in time, also there was not so comfortable meeting which took place between the two leaders. In fact, President Trump in that meeting itself alleged and made allegations against the Ramaphosa's government that the whites are being killed, they are being massacred, things like that, he said. And those claims were immediately refuted by Cyril Ramaphosa. So since that time, the relationship is not good between the two leaders. And in fact, about a month back, President Trump announced that that he'll be sending J.D. Vance for the G20 summit in Johannesburg. Then about a week back, the announcement came that America is going to boycott this year's G20 summit. Then there was a request which Americans made to the G20 Secretariat asking for access to the delegation for the transfer ceremony, transfer of presidency ceremony. So for that ceremony only, there's going to be the presence of the US delegation tomorrow. Otherwise, there's going to be no participation of the United States in the three sessions lined up at G20 summit in Johannesburg.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Siddhant.